Okay, so we started with our first trigonometric ratio, tangent, and now we're going to move into the other two basic trigonometric ratios, sine and cosine. And so there's six of these all together. We're going to learn about three in your geometry class, and then you'll learn about the other three when you get to pre-calculus. So here's our story. We're flying an airplane. Fred is flying an airplane and he's at approximately 5,200 feet altitude. 5,200 feet. And approximately 4 miles away from the runway. And it's debatable, I didn't clarify very well in my story which 4 miles, if that was 4 miles on the ground or if that was 4 miles here. I meant it to be, sorry about that, I meant it to be 4 miles literally from the plane to the runway. So we'll label this as 4 miles. And how many degrees should Fred turn down the nose of his plane to begin his descent? So first of all, keep in mind, Fred is flying along here in this path. This is what is called his line of sight. If he were to look directly out, that's what he would see out of his plane. And so if he's going to turn down the nose of his plane, it's actually this angle right here, which is not even inside of our triangle at all. It's outside of our triangle. But interestingly enough, that angle is related to an angle inside of our triangle. In fact, we have the line of sight is actually parallel to the ground, right? And so if these are parallel, then we could use alternate interior angles to make our angle X here also angle X degrees here. Okay, so last time we started to find out some new and fabulous relationships between angles on the inside in a right triangle and the side lengths could only be certain side lengths according to ratios. So if I were to label my sides here, let's see, this would be across from, so this is opposite, this is adjacent here, and this is hypotenuse here, right? And so, wait a second. We only had a strategy for opposite and adjacent. We didn't have a strategy that used the opposite and hypotenuse side. So actually, guys, this is what we're going to do today. So there are two other ratios, and they both involve the hypotenuse. Let's flip over here. One is going to be called sine of an angle, and it uses the opposite and hypotenuse sides, and cosine uses the adjacent and hypotenuse sides, and then we already know about tangent, which uses opposite and adjacent. Now, tan, we've already been abbreviating TAN, tan. Keep in mind that cosine, when we abbreviate it, if you want to call it cos, we do COS is all we do for that. Do not call it cos, though. You will sound ignorant like you don't know what you're talking about. Same thing for sine. We still, even though we spell it sin, we call it sine. It's just an abbreviation, is SIN, but it still represents the word sine, not sin. So, and we know now that these are all relative to what angle we're talking about and what's the opposite side, the hypotenuse side, and the adjacent side. Okay, so a couple little memory tricks to remember this. So one that you'll probably stick with you in the long term is SOHCAHTOA. SOHCAHTOA. It sounds like an Indian word. It's not literally an Indian word. But SOH stands for sine is equal to the opposite side over the hypotenuse side. Cosine stands for cos stands for C is cosine is adjacent over the hypotenuse side. And TOA, tangent, is equal to the opposite side over the adjacent side. And then they drew this silly little picture. This is a poster in my room where the TOA is literally soaking in a bright triangle bath. So just a silly little visual to help you remember. This other trick to remember which ones go with which is this phrase right here: some old hippie caught another hippie doing bad things. This is not Miss Benton condoning drug use. This is just a silly way to remember this. Research shows that if things are slightly naughty, we remember them better. So some old hippie, that sign is opposite over hypotenuse, are the first three words. Caught another hippie. Cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse. And then the last three, doing bad things. Tangent is opposite over adjacent, just to help you keep those straight, which one's which. Okay, so we'll stop right there and I'll pick up with you in the next video.